He slammed the door so hard the picture frames rattled. And for the first time in months, I realized maybe silence had been my loudest weapon. I should have said anything, but instead, I let the air between us rot with words unsaid. "Ethan," he snapped, his voice rough, furious, trembling with everything he wouldn't admit. "Do you even know what you're doing to me?" I did. God, I did. And yet my mouth stayed dry, my chest heavy, as if all the love I carried was a crime I couldn't confess. Dr. Michael Reed, me boyfriend. Though right now he looked more like my executioner, wasn't just another man in my life. He was the one who stitched my fractured world together when everything else collapsed. He was the one who reminded me I deserved something more than loneliness. But tonight, his eyes burned, and his fists were clenched at his sides. Like every piece of patience he had with me had finally snapped. "You think silence is safe," he said, pacing the small living room of my Brooklyn apartment. His lab coat swung from the chair where he had thrown it, like a ghost watching the fight unfold. "You think if you don't say it, you don't know me the truth." But Ethan, his voice cracked, low and dangerous. "Silence is still an answer." My throat tightened. I wanted to scream that he was wrong, that I was just scared. That silence wasn't rejection, it was survival. Because once upon a time, in this country that promised freedom, silence had kept me alive. Growing up in Ohio, with a father who treated emotions like diseases and a town that spat on anything that wasn't straight and narrow, I had learned to swallow my words. Love became a secret, affection a crime. But Michael wasn't my father. He wasn't my hometown. He was the man who brought me soup when I had the flu, who kissed my eyelids when nightmares came, who made me feel like maybe I wasn't broken after all. And here I was, destroying him with the very thing that had once saved me. "Michael," I finally whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of everything I hadn't said. "I never meant to hurt you." He stopped pacing. His chest rose and fell as though he'd just run a marathon. His eyes softened for a fraction of a second before the storm returned. "Then why the hell does it feel like you're punishing me every time you shut me out?" I looked at him, the man who had every reason to walk away, and realized this was the fight that would decide everything. If I didn't find the courage now, I would lose him. But courage is a muscle I hadn't exercised in years. And fear has a way of chaining you to the floor. "I'm not punishing you," I said, louder this time, though my voice trembled. "I'm punishing myself." That stopped him cold. He blinked, his mouth parting, confusion breaking through his anger. "What the hell does that mean?" My knees felt weak as I sank onto the couch. "I don't know how to say things the way you do. You're a doctor, you diagnose. You fix. You fight. I've spent half my life hiding. Every time I try to open my mouth, I feel like I'm back in my parents' kitchen, with my dad staring at me like I'm a mistake he can't erase. So I stay quiet, because quiet feels safe. But it's not safe anymore, is it?" Michael didn't move. He stood there, staring at me. And for the first time tonight, he looked less like he wanted to strangle me and more like he wanted to pull me into his arms and never let go. "You think I don't understand fear?" he asked, softer now. "You think I don't carry my own ghosts every damn day I walk into that hospital?" I looked up, meeting his eyes. His anger was still there, but beneath it was something else: pain, love, desperation. "I'm not asking you to be perfect," he continued. "I'm just asking you to be here, with me. To stop making me guess if you love me, if you even want me." That was the knife. Because the truth was, I wanted him more than I wanted air, more than I wanted safety, more than I wanted the comfort of silence. But love spoken out loud still felt like walking into fire. I do want you. I whispered. I love you. I just don't know how to be brave the way you are. For the first time all night, Michael's shoulders dropped, and his jaw unclenched. Slowly, like he was approaching a wounded animal. He crossed the room and sat beside me. His hand hovered over mine before he finally let his fingers brush against my skin. It was such a small touch, but it lit up every nerve in my body. You don't have to be me, he said. You just have to be Ethan. The Ethan who laughs at stupid jokes. The Ethan who makes the worst pancakes I've ever had in my life. The Ethan who kisses me like he's starving. That's the man I fell in love with. Not the one hiding behind silence. Tears blurred my vision. And before I could stop myself, I grabbed his hand and held on like it was the only thing keeping me from drowning. I'm scared, Michael. I confessed. But I don't want to lose you. He exhaled, long and heavy, and then leaned his forehead against mine. The storm in his eyes eased. And for the first time tonight, there was no anger, only raw, aching love. You won't, he said. Not if you let me in. The room was quiet again. But this time, silence wasn't rejection. It was a promise. Michael kissed me like he was trying to erase every second of doubt that had built between us. But the truth was, doubt doesn't vanish in a single night. Love isn't magic. It's work. The scars. It's bleeding and healing in the same breath. And I had to decide if I was brave enough to finally fight for him. The next morning, I woke up to an empty side of the bed. His white coat draped neatly over the chair again. A note sat on the nightstand, written in his tight, impatient handwriting. Emergency surgery. Don't disappear on me. I stared at those words until my vision blurred. My chest ached not from fear this time, but from something heavier, something real. He wasn't walking away. Not yet. He was giving me one more chance. For the first time in years, I didn't run. Days passed. We circled each other like fragile satellites, both cautious, both wanting. At night, we'd sit in silence. But now it wasn't the weapon it once was, it was space, waiting to be filled. And little by little, I learned to speak. I told him about the nights I spent as a kid, lying awake in my small Ohio bedroom, listening to my parents fight about me, about who I was, about how I'd turned wrong. I told him about the first boy I ever loved, and how the town chewed us up until we were nothing but shadows. Michael didn't interrupt. He didn't fix me. He just listened. Sometimes his hand would find mine, steady and warm, and that was enough. And when he spoke, he told me about his own fears, the patients he couldn't save, the weight of carrying family's grief, the exhaustion that came with always being the strong one. He admitted how terrifying it was to need someone, because doctors weren't supposed to need. It was in those quiet confessions that we found each other again. The breaking point came one Friday night. I was sketching at the table when Michael came home late. His eyes bloodshot, his hands shaking. He didn't even take off his coat before collapsing into the chair opposite me. I lost a kid today, he said, voice hollow. No matter what I did, I couldn't bring him back. I froze, the pencil slipping from my hand. He'd never said it so bluntly before. Never let me see him so unguarded. My first instinct was silence, the old reflex to retreat. But then I remembered his word, silence is still an answer. So I stood, walked to him, and slid onto his lap. My arms wrapped around his neck, my cheek pressed against his hair. You don't have to carry it alone, I whispered. His body shook, just once, like he was breaking in my arms. And in that moment, I realized the man I loved wasn't indestructible. He was human, and loving him meant showing up, even when it terrified me. Weeks later, we stood in the middle of Central Park, the early spring air crisp around us. Michael had insisted we go out, that we stop hiding inside our little bubble of pain and healing. The city moved around us, families, couples, laughter, life. I watched him, sunlight catching in his hair, and for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I had to swallow my words. "Michael," I said, my voice trembling but clear. He turned to me, brows furrowed, as if bracing himself for another half-truth. But this time, I didn't hold back. "I love you," I said, steady now. Not just in my head, not just in my silence. "I love you," out loud. His eyes widened, and for a heartbeat, the world seemed to stop. Then, slowly, the anger that had once burned so fiercely in him softened into something else: relief, warmth, a love so powerful it nearly knocked me to my knees. He reached out, cupped my face, and kissed me there in the middle of the park, in front of strangers who didn't matter. It wasn't a perfect kiss, it was messy, desperate, full of all the pain we'd survived, but it was ours. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine, and he whispered, "That's all I ever wanted, Ethan." Just to hear it. To know I'm not alone in this. "You never were," I said. "I was just too scared to let you know." He smiled then, the kind of smile that felt like sunrise after the longest night. We walked hand in hand, and for the first time, I didn't look over my shoulder. The city could watch, the world could judge, but none of it mattered. What mattered was that Michael knew that I had finally chosen love over silence. Later that night, lying tangled in bed, he whispered into my hair, "You're braver than you think." And maybe he was right, because courage isn't about being unafraid, it's about loving someone enough to speak, even when your voice shakes. I held him tighter, my heart steady at last, and realized that sometimes the only way to heal is to stop hiding. Silence had protected me once, but love was the thing that would keep me alive. And this time, I wasn't letting it go. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.